The night air was crisp as Alex adjusted his bow tie, standing outside the gleaming office building where a sleek black limousine waited at the curb. This wasn't just any work function. It was Meridian Corp's annual black tie gala, the most prestigious event on the company calendar, where executives mingled with clients worth millions and careers could be made or broken over champagne and canapes. Alex had been dreading this night for weeks, not because he disliked such events, but because of the unspoken expectation that senior staff would bring a plus one. After his breakup 3 months ago, he'd been left without an obvious date, and showing up alone felt like wearing a sign that read, "Professionally successful, personally failing." When his friend Mia from accounting had suggested he invite Jamie, the new marketing strategist, Alex had laughed it off initially. The Jamie who everyone in the office seems to be talking about? The one with the perfect hair and the smile that apparently lights up conference rooms? That Jamie, he'd asked incredulously. But Mia had been persistent. He's single, he's charming, and rumor has it he's into men. Plus, he mentioned to me that he hasn't been invited to the gala yet, despite his contributions to the Henderson campaign. The suggestion had planted a seed that Alex couldn't shake. He'd noticed Jamie, of course. It was impossible not to notice someone who commanded attention so effortlessly in meetings, who wore confidence like a tailored suit. But asking him to be his date? That felt like crossing a line he wasn't sure he was ready to cross. Yet here he was, watching Jamie walk toward him in a perfectly fitted tuxedo that accentuated his broad shoulders and slim waist. Alex felt his mouth go dry. This was no longer about having a plus one. This was about spending an evening with someone who made his heart race with just a smile. "You clean up nice," Jamie said as he approached, his eyes taking in Alex's formal attire with obvious appreciation. "Though I've always thought you looked good, even in those Monday morning meetings when everyone else looks half dead." Alex felt heat rise to his cheeks, unsure if this was casual flattery or something more intentional. "Our chariot awaits," Alex replied, gesturing to the limousine, trying to maintain his composure. The driver opened the door, and they slid into the plush leather interior. The partition was up, giving them privacy, and soft jazz played through hidden speakers. The interior was dimly lit with blue accent lights, creating an atmosphere that felt decidedly more intimate than Alex had anticipated. Jamie whistled low. "Meridian doesn't spare any expense, do they? I've never been in a limo this nice." He ran his hand over the leather seat between them, his fingers just inches from Alex's thigh. "Thanks for inviting me. I was starting to think I'd have to crash the party." As the limousine pulled away from the curb and merged into the evening traffic, Alex felt the initial awkwardness begin to dissolve. There was something about being enclosed in this luxurious space that made conversation flow more easily. "So, tell me about your first few months at Meridian," Alex began, genuinely curious about Jamie's experience. "You've made quite an impression already." Jamie laughed, a rich sound that seemed to fill the space between them. "Have I? I hope it's been a good one. Honestly, it's been a whirlwind. When I pitched the social media strategy for the Henderson account, I didn't expect the CEO to be in that meeting. I thought I was presenting to the marketing team, not the entire executive board." Alex smiled, remembering the buzz around the office after that presentation. "You handled it like a pro." "I was impressed, and I'm not easily impressed." Jamie's eyes met his, and there was a moment of connection that made Alex's pulse quicken. "I was terrified," Jamie admitted. "But I've learned that sometimes you have to fake confidence until it becomes real. That's been my strategy since college, pretend you belong until you actually do." This vulnerability surprised Alex. From the outside, Jamie seemed so self-assured, so naturally at ease in any situation. Learning that he too had insecurities made him even more attractive. "I know exactly what you mean," Alex found himself saying. "Everyone at Meridian thinks I have it all figured out because I got promoted last year, but most days I'm just trying not to let anyone see that I'm making it up as I go along." It was more honesty than he'd intended to share, but something about the intimate setting of the limousine and Jamie's attentive gaze made him want to open up. The pressure to always have the right answer, to never show weakness, it gets exhausting. Jamie nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's the thing about corporate culture, isn't it? We're all wearing masks, playing parts. It's refreshing when someone's willing to be real." As the limousine navigated through the city streets, their conversation deepened. Jamie spoke about growing up in a small town where being gay meant living with constant judgment, how moving to the city had been both liberating and overwhelming. "I spent so many years hiding who I was," he said, his voice quieter now. "When I finally came out, it was like learning to breathe again. But then came the challenge of figuring out who I actually am when I'm not hiding anymore." Alex felt a surge of empathy and connection. His own coming out had been less dramatic but no less significant. "I understand that journey," he replied. "It's like you get this freedom, but then you have to figure out what to do with it." The limousine hit a small bump, causing Jamie to shift slightly closer to Alex. Their shoulders touched, and neither moved away. Alex was acutely aware of the warmth of Jamie's body next to his, the subtle scent of his cologne, something woody with hints of citrus. "What about you?" Jamie asked. "What's your story? How did you end up at Meridian, wearing bow ties and inviting handsome colleagues to galas?" There was a playful note in his voice, but his eyes were sincere, interested. Alex found himself sharing more than he normally would with a coworker: his ambitious drive in college, his initial struggle to find his place in the corporate world, his recent promotion that came with both rewards and new pressures. "The truth is," Alex confessed, "I love my job, but sometimes I wonder if I'm sacrificing too much for it. My last relationship ended because I was always working, always bringing stress home." He said he felt like he was dating my job, not me. Jamie's expression was sympathetic. "That's tough. Finding that balance seems like the impossible dream sometimes." He hesitated, then added, "Is that why you needed a +1 for tonight? Still recovering from the breakup?" The question was direct but not intrusive, asked with genuine interest rather than prying curiosity. Alex considered deflecting with humor but decided on honesty instead. "Partly, yes. But also—" He paused, gathering his courage. "I've wanted to get to know you better since you joined the company. This seemed like a good opportunity." The admission hung in the air between them, and Alex held his breath, suddenly worried he'd said too much. But Jamie's slow smile eased his concern. "I've noticed you too, you know. The way you handle yourself in meetings, how you always make time to help the interns, that focused look you get when you're really listening to someone. It's attractive." The word attractive lingered in the air, charged with potential. The limousine slowed as they approached a red light, the pause in movement emphasizing the stillness between them. Alex was acutely aware of how close they were sitting, how easy it would be to close the distance. Jamie seemed to be thinking the same thing, his gaze dropping briefly to Alex's lips before meeting his eyes again. "I should probably mention," Jamie said, his voice lower now, "that I don't usually mix work and pleasure. It gets complicated." Alex nodded, understanding the unspoken question. "I feel the same way. I've always been careful about keeping those boundaries clear." Jamie's eyebrow raised slightly. "But," he prompted. "But sometimes exceptions are worth making," Alex finished, surprised by his own boldness. The limousine started moving again, but the momentum between them had already begun. Jamie's hand moved to cover Alex's on the seat, a simple touch that sent electricity through him. "I think you might be right about that," Jamie murmured. The city lights played across his features as they drove, highlighting the curve of his jaw, the warmth in his eyes. Alex found himself mesmerized, forgetting momentarily about the gala ahead, about workplace politics, about anything beyond this moment. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics as the limousine continued its journey: favorite films, travel dreams, amusing office stories. But there was an undercurrent of anticipation now, a shared awareness that something had changed between them. When Jamie laughed at one of Alex's jokes, he leaned in slightly, his knee pressing against Alex's. When Alex described his recent vacation to Portugal, Jamie listened with such focused attention that it felt like they were the only two people in the world. These small moments of connection accumulated, building a foundation of understanding that went beyond physical attraction. As they approached the hotel where the gala was being held, Alex felt a twinge of regret that their private time was coming to an end. "I should warn you," he said, "these corporate events can be pretty tedious. Lots of small talk about quarterly projections and market trends." Jamie's smile was reassuring. "Don't worry. I'm good at finding ways to make boring situations more interesting." The suggestive undertone in his voice made Alex's imagination race with possibilities. The limousine pulled up to the entrance, where valets in crisp uniforms stood ready to assist arriving guests. Through the tinted windows, they could see the glittering lights of the hotel lobby, the elegant figures of coworkers and clients arriving in formal wear. "Ready to make an entrance?" Jamie asked, his confidence seemingly restored now that they were approaching a social situation. Alex nodded, though his mind was still processing everything that had transpired during their ride. The driver opened the door, and Jamie exited first, then extended his hand to help Alex out, a small gesture that didn't go unnoticed by a group of Alex's colleagues standing nearby. The touch lingered a moment longer than necessary, a silent acknowledgement of what had begun in the privacy of the limousine. As they walked into the hotel, Alex was aware of curious glances, of whispered comments behind hands, But for once, he didn't care about office gossip. The warmth of Jamie's presence beside him was worth whatever rumors might circulate tomorrow. The grand ballroom was transformed for the occasion, with crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over tables adorned with elaborate floral arrangements. A string quartet played in one corner, providing sophisticated background music as attendees mingled with drinks in hand. "Impressive," Jamie commented, taking in the scene. "Meridian really knows how to throw a party." Alex nodded, automatically scanning the room to know which executives were present, which clients needed attention. It was a habit born from years of navigating these events with career advancement in mind. But tonight felt different. He was less concerned with making the right impressions and more focused on the man standing beside him. They made their way to the bar, where Alex ordered his usual scotch on the rocks and Jamie opted for a gin and tonic. "So," Jamie said, leaning in slightly to be heard over the music and conversation, "who should I know here? Give me the insider's guide to Meridian's power players." Alex appreciated his practical approach, the way he was balancing personal connection with professional awareness. As they sipped their drinks, Alex pointed out key figures: the CEO who valued directness above all else, the CFO whose apparent aloofness masked a sharp wit, the client from Tokyo whose business had saved the company during last year's downturn. Jamie listened attentively, occasionally asking insightful questions that revealed his strategic mind. "And what about us?" Jamie asked after a while, his tone more personal. "How do we play this? Colleagues? Friends? Something else?" The question brought them back to the charged atmosphere of the limousine, to the possibilities that had opened up between them. Alex considered his response carefully. "I think we're still figuring that out," he said honestly. "But for tonight, let's just say we're enjoying each other's company and see where that leads." Jamie's smile was appreciative. "I like that approach. No pressure, no labels, just exploration." The word carried weight, promise. As the evening progressed, they moved through the gala with a natural synchronicity. They joined conversations with Alex's team members, where Jamie charmed everyone with his quick wit and genuine interest. They sampled hors d'oeuvres from passing trays, sharing observations about the food and the event in quiet asides that felt like private jokes. When the CEO cornered them to discuss Jamie's recent marketing success, Alex watched with admiration as Jamie handled the conversation with both confidence and humility. And throughout it all, there were moments of connection, a hand on the small of a back while navigating through crowds, a meaningful glance across a circle of colleagues, the brush of fingers when passing a drink. After dinner was served and the formal speeches concluded, the string quartet was replaced by a DJ who began playing music that transitioned the event from formal dinner to something more festive. "Dance with me?" Jamie asked, extending his hand as the first couples moved to the dance floor. Alex hesitated briefly, aware that dancing together would make a statement to everyone present. But the warmth in Jamie's eyes melted his reservation. "I'd love to," he replied, taking the offered hand. They moved to the edge of the dance floor, where Jamie's arm slipped naturally around Alex's waist, their bodies finding an easy rhythm together. "You're full of surprises," Alex said as they moved to the music. "I wouldn't have pegged you as a dancer." Jamie laughed softly. "There's a lot you don't know about me yet. I'm hoping you'll want to discover it all." The promise in those words made Alex's heart race. As they danced, the world around them seemed to recede, the music, the other couples, the corporate setting all became background to the connection between them. When Jamie pulled him slightly closer, their cheeks almost touching, Alex felt a certainty growing within him that this was more than just a date of convenience, more than workplace attraction. There was potential here for something significant. As midnight approached, the gala began to wind down. Executives and clients said their goodbyes, some heading to after-parties at nearby bars, others returning home after a long evening of networking. "Should we call it a night?" Alex asked, though he was reluctant for their time together to end. Jamie's expression mirrored his own hesitation. The responsible answer would be yes, he replied. "We both have work tomorrow." But he trailed off, leaving the alternative unspoken but clearly understood. The tension between them had been building all evening, through every dance, every shared look, every moment of connection. "But maybe we're not feeling particularly responsible tonight," Alex finished for him, making a decision. "The limousine is still waiting for us. We could take the scenic route home." Jamie's smile was slow and full of promise. "I've always appreciated a good scenic route." They made their goodbyes to remaining colleagues, accepting knowing smiles and raised eyebrows with good humor. As they walked through the hotel lobby, Jamie's hand found Alex's, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that felt both new and somehow familiar. The limousine was waiting as promised, the driver opening the door with professional discretion as they approached. Once inside, with the privacy partition raised and the city lights creating patterns across their faces, the atmosphere between them changed again, more charged, more intimate than before. "I've been wanting to do this all night," Jamie said softly, and then he was leaning in, his hand coming up to cup Alex's face as their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened with shared hunger. Alex responded eagerly, his hands finding Jamie's waist, pulling him closer as the limousine began to move through the nighttime streets. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Jamie's eyes were dark with desire. "This complicates things at work," he said, though his tone suggested he wasn't particularly concerned about this fact. Alex nodded, his thumb tracing Jamie's lower lip. "Completely worth it, though." Their second kiss was slower, more deliberate, an exploration rather than an explosion. Alex lost himself in the sensation, in the taste of Jamie's mouth, in the solid warmth of his body. The limousine could have been driving in circles for all he cared. Time and destination had become irrelevant compared to the journey they were beginning together. Eventually, they settled into a comfortable embrace, Jamie's head resting on Alex's shoulder as they watched the city pass by outside the windows. "So what happens tomorrow?" Jamie asked, his voice thoughtful. "When we're back in the office, back to being colleagues." It was a valid question, one that Alex had been considering as well. "We take it one day at a time," he answered honestly. "We're discreet but not secretive. We don't flaunt it, but we don't deny it either if anyone asks." He paused, then added, "And we make time for each other outside of work, to see if what we're feeling tonight is something that can grow." Jamie nodded against his shoulder, seemingly satisfied with this approach. "I'd like that," he said simply. "I'd like to see where this could go." The limousine turned onto Alex's street, slowing as it approached his apartment building. The evening was coming to an end, but Alex felt like something much more significant was just beginning. As the vehicle came to a stop, he turned to face Jamie fully. "Would you like to come up for a nightcap?" he asked, the invitation clear in his voice. Jamie's smile was answer enough, but he spoke anyway. "I thought you'd never ask." As they exited the limousine together, thanking the driver who maintained a professional poker face despite surely understanding the situation, Alex felt a sense of anticipation mixed with contentment. What had begun as a practical solution to his social obligation had transformed into something unexpected and promising. The night air was cool against his skin as they walked toward his building, Jamie's hand warm in his. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, workplace dynamics, professional boundaries, the scrutiny of colleagues. But tonight was theirs, a beginning written in the private space of a limousine and continuing now into the privacy of Alex's home. Standing at his door, keys in hand, Alex paused to look at Jamie, his tousled hair, his slightly loosened bow tie, the warmth in his eyes that spoke of desire and something deeper, something with potential for growth. "I'm really glad you said yes to being my plus one tonight," Alex said softly. Jamie's response was to lean in for another kiss, brief but full of promise. "Best decision I've made in a long time," he murmured against Alex's lips. And as Alex unlocked the door to his apartment, leading Jamie inside, he couldn't help but agree. What had started as a solution to his social dilemma had become the beginning of something far more meaningful, a connection found in the most unexpected of places, between the office and a gala. In the intimate confines of a limousine where two people had discovered they might just be exactly what the other had been looking for all along. Total _char_count, 18,763.